Welcome to Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things, the podcast show. I am your host, Carrie Roberts, and I have another extraordinary person to share with you that I also know personally, Paul Bobowick. I welcome you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate and very honored to have be on your show.
Yeah, so you were a dance student of mine, and I've known you for quite a few years now. But before we get into all of that, which is kind of our main topic, I want to go back from the beginning. And I always like to talk about people, what they were like as kids. So when you were a young kid, what was your personality like? What were the things that you'd like to do?
Well, I was an only child. My parents were older, so I think because of that, maybe I was a little doted on. But in those times, did a lot of outdoor activities. Uh, my mother had taken me to dance lessons a little bit when I was a little kid, uh, and did the baseball and the local football. Went to a little bit of square dancing was uh, popular, but I think I did a lot of studies and then hung around with friends. So I don't think there was anything unusual. I was raised in Springfield, Massachusetts, which was a very, uh, in a way, a cosmopolitan type of small town. So it was a very nice place to be brought up.
Yeah, and I am curious, like you said, you were doing your studies, you're doing sports, you were doing some arts. Did you always have an interest in the arts? I mean, dance specifically, or theater or music? Was that kind of something that you just were naturally interested in as a kid, or were there other people around you that were doing it as well?
No, I think I had always had an interest in music, and I had thought that maybe my musical talents were going to be a little bit better than I had imagined. I had envisions of going to Berklee School of Music for for a couple months, but then you realize that there was so many people, even at my local level, that were so much better than me. I played in a local wedding band, which was a good gig, because when you're 16, 17 years old and you're able to get a nice little amount of money, because those were in the days before DJs. So people would hire 4 or 5 piece bands for their weddings. But and so, but then once I went to college, it I think sort of dropped off. Just
Yeah, it's interesting you said that. Yeah, I think anytime we can do something we enjoy and then of course get paid for it, that's always a
right.
plus. So you were showing me, which you didn't want to share with everyone, but you had these adorable photos of you dancing. You had done like some tap, you had done some ballroom. So you had kind of done these classes that your mom kind of put you in as a kid. Did you do them just as a kid for a little while and then it
Oh,
just kind of
right. Yeah.
disappeared?
Yeah, I think because one, my mother didn't drive, so we'd walk over to the studio. So yes, we'd walk through the snow like 2 miles in the winter to the lessons, and then of course the cost was the cost, and then the recital uniforms and everything. So I just did it for a couple of years, and I think by the time I was in first grade. So I think it was like a kindergarten, first grade,
Yeah.
maybe second grade type of
So it was
thing.
kind of your first experience, definitely.
Right.
So, okay, so you do some dance and you were in the military, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I graduated from Boston University, and then I went uh, to grad school for a little bit up in University of Maine, and then said, I've had enough of school, and I went and joined the Navy.
Oh, so you did school first.
Correct.
And then you went, okay, but so you're a lawyer. You're well, almost retired now. And you were a lawyer. Did you initially go to school saying, okay, that's what I want to be, or did you decide to go into the law
No,
stuff
no,
kind of after?
I was going to be I majored in geology. And then
Oh,
when I went to in the Navy, I went to officer candidate school, and I started off as a surface warfare officer, as a ship driver, and then I became a engineering duty officer. So the Navy sent me to 2.5 years to Monterey, California, to grad school.
not a bad place to
Right,
be.
yeah, that was really rough duty, Carmel, California, and Pebble Beach. So um, it was a rough deployment, let me tell you. But so I got my master's there, and then from there went to various duty stations in primarily computer engineering, San Diego and Guam, and then back to DC.
It's very interesting, right? So because our title is about, about dancing and never too late to kind of start something. So you have this kind of career where you are doing military work, you do law work. At what point as an adult, because I met you later on, but I'm curious, was
Right.
there a point throughout your career that you were like, I think I want to try dancing again? Had you tried it as an adult, and what was your experience before kind of I met you?
Well, when I was in Guam, needed to get into shape, lose weight, stay in shape, and so I started going to. At that time, it was high impact aerobic classes, and so there was one or two of us gentlemen in with uh, the rest of the women. But I really enjoyed the music, and uh, I really got addicted to and I want to say at that time they called it the high impact aerobic.
Yep.
And so I went on Guam, and then when I came back to Washington D.C., uh, got back into once again the high impact aerobic classes, and really enjoyed that because it was a way that you would do more than you could ever do yourself. I mean, you put the music on, it's like, but when you had an instructor, like yourself, then, and then I took your class. But I think that was the segue into back into dance. Is just that was my really only form of one of the forms of exercise that I really enjoyed was the high impact aerobic classes. But then they sort of did away with those. They replaced those with step classes, and I would try to seek them out. And it was so instructor dependent that you could go to a class, and unless the instructor was really good, of your caliber, then you sort of would lose interest.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
so
I think an
I think
instructor
that
makes a
was
difference.
for maybe 10 years or so that I had taken those classes. So I think that's what got me back.
I want to, before we continue our story, we have Miss Paula here. So Paula knows both of us. She says, hi, Carrie and Paula. Nice to hear this conversation. She says, you're amazing, and she loves your dance story. And Paula has her own dance story as well. She's also a fabulous dancer in person, too. So, Paul, before, so you were doing aerobics. At what point, because I taught hip hop, what made you say, I want to do hip hop dance? Like, where did that come from? Because that wasn't the classes that your mom put you in. Like, where did the interest in hip hop dance come specifically?
Well, I think from the cardio classes, and certainly that was the best type of music to do those type of classes too. I know that there are other classes that use different genres, and plus you without having a partner. I mean, I think it was just primarily as a type of exercise, and then to keep energized.
Yeah, so I think I'm trying to think, what year did we meet? Was it like you were at when I was in Fairfax. So I want to say, is that 2013, 2014 maybe?
Right. And it was when you were at the in Fairfax at the Jewish Community Center holding classes.
Oh, you were there with me first.
Yes, and I started taking classes with you in the summer at that time, and I had wanted to join your team, but it was filled up, and so I was too late. And I had also, after, because I had a heart surgery, the triple bypass, is I was looking for something that was enjoyable for exercise. So I had gone to your class with my daughter at times, and so I started with you at the in your classes.
Yeah. So again, you just kind of, this is always what happens on this show. People kind of push past the big stuff. You had triple bypass surgery, and I remember you telling me that. And as a fitness and dance person, I was like, I'm always kind of like, are you cleared? Are you okay? Like, what's going on? And you're like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm fine. I want to do hip hop dance. And I was like, yes. I mean, I've always been a fan of like, if somebody's passionate about something, go for it. But I think that a lot of people have stereotypes, right? They think dance, especially hip hop dance, is for younger people. It used to be more on the female side, but I would say in the last 5 or 10 years, it's been heavy on the male side actually, but it's generally thought of like kids or like people in their 20s. I feel like anyone over the age of 30 is like unless you've danced for years, are like, you don't dance. Here you come in and you're like, I've had triple bypass surgery and I want to do hip hop dance. I mean, had you tried other places, or had you, when you first kind of talked about this with people, where people were like, are you crazy? Like, what are you doing? What does that mean? Did you kind of face any criticism for that initially before you started or as you kind of joined?
I think sometimes, people like, oh, what are you doing? But for my family, it was just, very supportive, and it just encouraging me to do anything for on the exercise side, and then also on the social side.
Yeah. So you started, I had a cardio hip hop class, which you said was kind of like a workout class, but kind of dance based. And you started there.
Right.
And then, and I just remember like, I mean, even from the first couple times that you had done that class, I always gave levels, and you maybe couldn't or didn't want to do a higher level, whether it was because, again, a lot of people knee issues, or like even for me, sometimes, okay, my arm is hurting, I would choose a different level. But then like after a few weeks or a few months, I mean, you were doing the higher level. You were jumping, you were doing everything. And I was like, this guy is killing it. I love it. And you were always somebody, in that class to start. I think when people came in, you were just talking so much about how much you loved it, the energy it gave you. And I think everyone can attest, if Paul is still watching here, you are always smiling when you dance. I mean, I used to tell my students all the time, young and older, smile, put on a face. That was never anything I had to tell you. And so in the cardio hip hop class, just the joy that you brought and the energy and seeing your level of fitness improve was just, I mean, it was just amazing, I think, for anyone. But I think also hearing from someone who said, I just had this surgery. I mean, did you kind of feel that element of growth for you in the cardio hip hop class?
Yeah. And I think that was it, is that you can do your progress, and you check your progress, and you can feel yourself improving little by little. And I think that's a really great part about dance, and being in a group, is that you can lose yourself in the dance. It's not like, oh, I'm doing 10 burpees. I got to do 10 more. It's like, when is the next song coming on? You were very good about having a nice break-in couple of songs, and then in the middle you have these hard songs, and then you find yourself doing more than you think that you could do, and pushing yourself, but not really even pushing yourself, just losing yourself in the moment.
Yes, that is how I feel all the time. I agree. I do other styles of exercise, but dance is an element where I feel just my emotions come out. I feel good. I can't think of anything else. It's my form of meditation, but I'm also getting exercise in a fun way. So I totally agree. So now I want to transition. You go into my hip hop team. So for those that don't know, I'm sure some of you watching or listening are from the team, so you know it. So I used to own a dance studio, and I had created an adult hip hop team. I had kids and teens, but I actually had a very large adult population. And most people were over the age of 30 and wanted to dance, did a little bit, or maybe just kind of starting. And you, like you said, you had wanted to be on the team at the time. We only had enough space, and then I was able to expand and have you come on. And you came on, and you knew and I knew. I was like, okay, you weren't as advanced as other people, and that was because some people had danced their whole life, right? So there was definitely varying levels. But the effort that you put in was more than anyone I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I remember, even though you just talked about burpees, I would make you guys do push-ups and sit-ups and things like that. And Not once would you cheat. I don't know if it's the military person in you. Not once would you cheat. If you had to take longer, you would. You would encourage the other people. You would come in and do extra push-ups, and everybody would be like, oh, Paul's doing extra push-ups. Maybe we should do extra push-ups. And this element of leadership that you possessed within this group of people was so tremendous. And I'm not sure that you're aware of the level that you did. It was inspiring to me and to so many of the teammates. And I'm just curious, like, were you conscious of that? I mean, is that something that you think your leadership skills came from the military, from who you are, or were you just like, no, I'm just going in there and doing my thing?
Well, I think part of the environment, well, one, you didn't say that we had to do push-ups if we ever came in late, but I never came in late.
That was a rule.
I mean, I think part of the dance in the class was a place for personal growth and a place for escape. And I think occasionally one would see some people that were, I want to say maybe a little bit down or maybe not having a good day. And so I would maybe try to encourage that, hey, let's go in there and have fun, because that's the whole purpose of having fun. And since I was like the worst dancer, I wasn't trying to be competitive with anybody or like, oh, I can do this better than you, because I know I couldn't. I knew that. So I, was coming at it from that position also.
I love that. Yeah, go ahead, continue.
Oh no, I was saying, and it was a real, I think, eye opener for me in the difference between taking a dance class, going and taking a hip hop class, and then doing the choreo and the performances. I mean, that was a whole different level. I mean, and a whole different skill set. And it made me appreciate when I see a dancer on TV and I'm just like, 10 seconds takes so long to do, and then they'll do these long routines. And so.
Yes, I would agree. Choreography definitely is more challenging in a different way than cardio. And it's funny because like you said, I don't want to say worse, because I don't want to say that. I would say you probably had the least amount of experience coming onto the team, but you had the most effort than anyone else on the team. And maybe because that's how I am as a dancer, I was never the best dancer. I always was the one that worked really hard. Maybe that's why I resonate or like that. But that just means so much more to me, because someone can be talented, but if they don't really put in the same amount of effort, then they kind of stay where they're at. Whereas the person who wants it more, who tries more, they're going to grow. And I think, you do that in your professional life, but now here you are doing this and kind of something that's fun and that's personal. And it was just so cool, because I think too, you tend to be, in a group, maybe initially one of the more quieter ones. But what was also really great for me to see from you was the growth in your confidence and your ability to just be yourself and be funny and interact with people. And like when we would do costume days, you would bring in different stuff. And like when we did the Halloween one, like you went all out. And I was like, I love this. And I think that's what I've always loved about teaching is people like you, when I see this person coming out and being their unique, extraordinary self. And that's part of why I wanted to have you on the show. But we're going to get into some of the other stuff you're doing as well. But just seeing your growth was just so amazing for me, and to continue to see that. And again, like I said, it was just so inspirational for everyone that interacted with you on the team. And I'm curious, you were with me for a few years before I let the studio go and move to a different state. What do you think about your growth over those years? Like, what did you notice about yourself as a dancer or as a person from being a part of a team and performing choreography?
I think being a part of a team was, I think, the most important thing that I got to participate in, and then being able to do the performances. Because once again, I think your expertise as a teacher really came through in not just having us do some piece of choreo, but you would have us do the across the floor movements and then build upon those. And I've taken a couple other classes, since your class, and no one has ever really had that building approach. But I think being able to go from a class where you're just following somebody and then sort of doing it with that group, but then going out in front of on stage, and I think we had some performances. I think there was a couple in the rain in Fairfax, Virginia. There was maybe only 3 or 4 people there, but I mean, it was still, the butterflies would come up, and then we would practice, but there would always be another group before us. So it's like you practice, this routine down cold, but then as soon as you hit the stairs to go up to the stage, it's like, trying to go through that. So I think there was the growth in that. And then you encouraged us also to do a solo, to choreograph and do a solo. And I did one of those. And so I think that was a different experience, and I got different growth in that. And then did the lip sync for charity. And those were also different experiences and different growth with those experiences.
You're making me all nostalgic now, Paul, because we did do so many great things, and I forgot about your solo. So one of the things for those that aren't dancers, what's very common in the dance space is that you have to kind of earn the ability to have a solo, duet, or trio, and that's based on who the best dancer is. And so some people never get that opportunity, and I always thought that was dumb. Unless you're going to something professional, the New York City Ballet, that would make sense because people are paying, but otherwise who cares? And so I used to have my students once a year, they had the opportunity, they could either pay to have me choreograph, or I'd encourage them to choreograph and just have that moment to be themselves on stage at this event. And again, it's not going to be the best thing ever, but the whole point was to build confidence and give you guys a creative outlet. And you did one. And I remember, again, because you did this like singing in the rain, and then it like kind of like, oh, I'm an older person singing in the rain. And then you like ripped off the jacket, and then you went into this like hip hop thing. I was like, oh my God, I love this. And I think everybody watching, again, it was like, look at this person having fun, being fearless, doing something unique, living an extraordinary life. Like I love it. I just love it. I mean, when you came up with that concept, what was kind of going through your mind in the creative space to do something like that?
I think I was driving back from one of your classes and Offspring was on. And so it was and for some reason I said, oh, it had some nice beats to it. I mean, certainly not a hip hop song.
Yeah.
And then I thought of transitioning from the Singing in the Rain to the Offspring, and then coming back. But one of the things about all of those showcases, it was always so funny that even though I was the oldest, all of us in the adult group were older than, we were the only
non-kid.
Non-little kids. I think we got a lot of looks from people, but then a lot of encouragement from not only the parents of the kids, but a lot of the kids who are like, hey, and I'm sure maybe some of them went home with their parents and say, hey, those people got up on stage. Why don't you guys go up on stage next time?
Yes, I just say Revathi is here too. She's sending some love. She says your solo was amazing. Again, Revathi was another person on our team, also a very caring and talented person in multiple sectors of the arts. So Paul, let's transition a little bit forward. So I let go of the studio and moved to a different state in mid-2018. And of course the question was, okay, where do we dance? What do we do? And I was trying to give options from what I knew or found. So you go and become a legit professional dancer. Now, a professional dancer means you are paid to dance. And so the Wizards, which is the DC basketball team, has this, they have their main dancers and then they kind of have this other dance group. And you tell me, and you tell the team nonchalantly, like it's no big deal. You're like, oh yeah, I'm being paid to dance for the Wizards. And we're all like, what? And I just was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Next level. So can you tell us about what this team is, why you decided to be on it, how you got on it, how it's been run? I know with COVID, it's been weird, but before that, can you tell us just the whole experience?
Well, I had looked, it was the second year of the team. And I was very upset in the sense that I says, oh, it's the second year, that, oh, maybe I could have, tried out the first year. But it was the second year of the team. And I tracked it. The team is between the ages, you have to be over 50. First of all, the basketball team has their dancers and their cheerleaders, the real pros. And they also have a team of people that do a stunt type of team that do break dancing and tumbling and things like that. And they also have a kids team. But for the senior team, you have to be over the age of 50. They held auditions. There was 165 people at the auditions. And they expanded the team into the audition day went about 6 hours. I think they taught a routine, and then they broke up people into groups of 5, and then and they had all the men. And I must admit, I mean, there were not many men there. So, I mean, if with my skills, if I was a woman, because out of the team of, I think it was 27, there was only 6, 7 new people. So it was
wait. So they so they had a 27-person team. They were looking for 6 new people out of 165. You were one of the 6 people?
Right.
Okay. If you were watching this right now,
but I'm a guy, so
no, Paul, it's not because you're a guy. Like, that's a small piece. I can tell you why. Like, because you, first of all, like, your eye goes to you because you're smiling and enjoying it the whole time. Like, this is insane. I am so proud of you. Again, you're very nonchalant about it. Again, Paula, that's amazing. Paul Revathi again is commenting as well. This is huge. This isn't something small. Yeah, Paula just said, Paul, don't downplay it. Yes, agreed. Exactly. This is a huge deal. I mean, because they held it as a legit audition. They didn't just say anybody could come. They had 6 hours. They had 165 people. So do they send you like a letter? Like, how did you find out you were one of the 6?
Well, that was the other thing, is that after the audition, they said they were going to let everybody know within like 3 or 4 days. Mm-hmm. And that they were going to let the people who made it and then eventually get to the people that didn't make it. And I must admit, by the end of the first week, I was really, I'm going to say really depressed. I mean, I was really hoping that, that I made it. Mm-hmm. And then it was about, so I think it was maybe about the second week or so that they sent us an email that said, "You've made the team." And I was very happy.
Again, you're so subdued. Because I would be, you see how I am now. I'm like excited for you. And you guys know when I was on team, I do like Running Man. I get like really excited with my 80s moves. Like, were you jumping up and down, or were you just like?
I was really, I think I was surprised at how depressed I was about not making the team. I mean, I was like, maybe didn't let it on to the family, but I was really sad that I hadn't made, that I thought I hadn't made the team. And then when I did, I was really, really happy.
And I I think, it's funny because I don't even think it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't even think it was like, oh, it's the Wizards. I think it was, again, you were craving that team experience again,
Right.
and having
Right.
that.
Right.
And I think that's huge. Again, Revathi, seriously, Paul, you kick butt. You're such a talented performer. Paula Fax, I love the love from our fellow teammates here. So this is so cool. So when you got on that court and you performed,
Right.
I mean, that's a different experience than kind of some of the stuff we did. And so I'm curious, how did you feel performing? You're sitting there and you're you're getting paid. So you're getting paid, you're on this team and you're like, I'm on the Wizards. Like, are you like, I've made it in life? Because I feel like that's how I feel.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like, any type of, sometimes you hear about these actors saying that you get a residual check and you get this residual check for 4 cents, but that doesn't matter. And that was, it was that we were sponsored by AARP, but when we received, this stipend, I'll say, and I'm like, oh my God, that means I'm dancing and I get paid. I put the two together. But when I got together with the other people, I mean, it was, they're such a tremendous group of people. I mean, I just can't say enough about the coaches. It's just so, they just go beyond. And each one of the other team members just so caring and helpful. And that was another humbling thing for myself, that for the women on the team, who range in age from 50 to 77 is the oldest, a number of them had been cheerleaders for the Washington football team. Former Redskins. Some of them had been cheerleaders for the Bullets. So some of the women were really had a skill set that was, I mean, way beyond myself. I mean, even if someone is 60, 65, 70, if they had been a professional football cheerleader, 30 years ago, I mean, how competitive something like that is. So they
have the mentality, the mindset, definitely.
And so once again, I'm in a situation where we're surrounded by people that, for the most part, can dance way better than myself.
Yeah,
and
but
remember the choreo far better.
You still made it. And so it still matters. Again, Paula says, so cool. If I made the Wizards dance team, I would be so excited. Agreed. So now we've got another thing, right? So this was like, Paul, it's time to have you on the show. So I'm scrolling through Instagram and there is a company called Steezy. And again, if you're not a dancer, you probably don't know about this, but Steezy is a pretty big online, primarily hip hop program. So they sell choreographies that you can learn from people in LA. And I'm scrolling through and I see Paul's face. And I'm like, what the heck? And I'm like, oh my God, I know this guy. And you were wearing the emotion jacket too. I was like, right. Oh my God. And you're talking about, why you're dancing, why you took these classes. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, this guy is unstoppable. Because again, we were just talking offline, right? You said, okay, because of COVID, we haven't been dancing with the team. So you were like, okay, well, what can I do? And you sign up for these classes. So now these are pretty challenging classes. Can you talk about your experience now learning dance online in your home, what that was like and how that kind of led you to kind of be part of this ad that I saw as well?
Well, it's an online program and they have various instructional videos. And thing that for me set it apart was that you could mirror the instructors, because to me it was always very difficult when you would have an instructor facing you, but if they didn't turn around and you couldn't photograph them. So this had ability to that, and they have various uh, uh, types of instruction. In fact, they just started 2 weeks ago a locking program, which for people like myself with not the best type of knees, you have locking and popping and other types of whacking that, well, as long as one doesn't do the splits, but, it doesn't, you could have people in nursing homes sitting in wheelchairs doing tutting. And there would be
Yes.
a good,
100%.
and I think there would be, I could see a lot of 80 and 90 years old, people doing, different types of stuff. But anyway, they had asked if somebody wanted to say about you're not too old to dance, and it was so funny because I'm 68, but these comments of all these people is like, I'm 15 and I didn't start when I was 12, or I'm 23 and everybody else started when they were younger, and it's like you're never too old.
Yes, 100% yes. Again, Paul is killing it with these comments too. You have a skill set too, Paul. It doesn't always matter how much formal training someone has. You dance with a joy that is incomparable, which brings me to this point, right? And kind of, what so many things that make you extraordinary is, I think so many people are scared. They're fearful of what if, or what if somebody says something, or what if I don't look good, or what is so-and-so going to think about this? And so they limit themselves in trying and doing things, whether that's a physical thing like dance, whether that's trying a new career, whether that's a new relationship. And so they kind of get stuck in this place, whether they're, like you said, 15 or 58 or 98. So I'm curious, did you ever feel that way in your lifetime? Where you ever felt like scared or stuck? And if so, how did you get out of it to this place you are now? Or if you didn't feel that way, how have you been able to feel this way all the time?
No, I think at many times in my life been scared or stuck, or you get caught in a routine. One is going through the motions, and you have to use a sense of willpower, or maybe there's an event that happens, and say if I don't change my behavior, don't change my habits, then I'm going to continue along that same road. And I think there's many, it could either be a crisis that pushes one, or even worse than a crisis is if there is nothing going on and you stay in the same rut. I'm not saying that a crisis is good or an event is good, but sometimes if everything is just going along humdrum, that's maybe when it's the hardest to say, I need to change the routine, or I need to do something to push myself.
Yes, I agree with that. So if somebody is feeling that, because I'm sure people resonate with that, like you said, I think that's a really important point, actually, that it doesn't have to be a crisis. Sometimes when things are just okay, you're like, well, I don't have to change, or everything's okay, it's fine, even though inside they maybe want to do something. Do you have any advice for people that are feeling that way to get them to improve or change their mindset and just go out and try and do something that they've always wanted to do?
Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. And if you can't do, to imagine what it is that you would want to do, and then take the baby step in what would be the first thing that one could want to do. So if one wanted to dance like on Dancing with the Stars or a show like that, then watch a video online, maybe take a class unfortunately with COVID, but take a class at the community center, or or something like that. But to maybe take one little step towards what that goal, and then the next day take another step.
Yeah, I like that. And I think I would add to that because, and I don't know if you felt this, although again, you were already like, just do it. But I've been teaching for 17 years of all different ages. I don't do it full time now, but I still do teach. I always teach at least once a week. And one of the things that I always tell my students, especially adults, because usually they're great at their job, they're great at home, and so they want to be good at this. And I always say, I'm like, first of all, I've seen everything. It's like when you go to the doctor and you feel uncomfortable, they've seen everything, right? Like that's their job. But the thing is like everybody started in the same place, just at a different time in their life. So, I mean, I still do that now. One of the reasons I love dance so much is it's the one thing that you never master. Because, okay, I've been doing hip hop, I've been doing ballet, and then I started doing ballroom, and it was like back to square one, like I've never danced before in my life. They were like, oh, all that ballet training, throw it out. I'm like, wait, what? I was told to do this. They're like, nope, that doesn't work here. And so it humbles you, and you have to remember, like, we all started in that place. And I think that, especially with dance, that's a big thing to think about. And then, of course, making sure you're around people that are supportive, right? I would imagine that the classes or the people that you're with, or like you said, even your family, having that support that people are saying, hey, just do what makes you happy, just do what you enjoy. That's huge, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times people have maybe unrealistic expectations, and you think that, oh, I want to take a dance class, I want to learn to do, let's say, a partner dance, which is certainly probably more difficult because now you have not only all the partner stuff to worry about. But if somebody says, oh, I've never played violin and I want to play violin like that person on TV, they wouldn't be discouraged if after private lessons or group lessons, they can play like one little song. But I think for some reason in dance, people think like, oh, I'm going to take a dance lesson. I'm going to take a couple classes, and oh, I'm not as good as the people on TV. But they do hours a day and years. And so not to be discouraged, just be happy in whatever progress one makes. I mean, one can be happy just listening to the music and tapping your toes, and it just, and then if you learn how to tap them better, and then one has to, I cannot sing. I do not have a good voice. I mean, I could take a voice lesson, but maybe I cannot carry cannot carry a tune. And there are some individuals who cannot follow a beat, and they cannot be learned. And then maybe they just need to accept that they should channel their energy in a different way. So one has to understand one's own limitations.
Yeah, and I, again, having taught dance and fitness for so many years, I've had many classes where there's one person going the opposite way, and but I will say they're always the happiest. They do not care. They are in their own world. They know that they are not on beat, and they don't care at all. And so I think you're right. Sometimes it's like, okay, I'm not that good. I'm totally aware of it. As long as you're not running into people, if that's what you want to do, like that's fine. And I think that's a really good message to say here. What is next for you? I mean, again, COVID's made it a weird time as we're recording this, but when you are kind of looking at your next dance step, what is kind of the next thing that you would like to try or do?
I would really like to get with a group back together. As you know, we pre-COVID, a few of us from your group got together, and I'd like to get together with a group and just do any type of dance. They were talking at one of the local studios. They have it for teens. They have what they call Broadway tap. So it's just, I think I'd like to try, something like that. Not break out a little bit in that. I've tried a little bit of swing dance, which I enjoyed. But I think I'd like to try more of a group ensemble type of work. And
Yes, I love,
I
you know,
think as I
what's,
get older and my knees get worse, I think maybe like a Broadway tap.
yeah.
Uh,
You know, it's funny because I remember when I left and I had suggested, I think, ballroom or something, and you were like, no, I want hip hop. You were like, I don't want the slow stuff right now. I want this. And I resonate with that. I think, like I said, what's beautiful about dance, you know, it's great. It's nice to learn online. It's not the same. I think what's important about dance is the communal component. I mean, you know, in the last couple of years, I've gotten really heavy into the Latin stuff and social dance, and not having that is a really hard thing, you know? And so I totally agree. Having a group, again, when it's safe, or if you're in an area where it's maybe a couple people and everyone's feeling okay with the mask, you know, it could be good. But I agree. Having some sort of person that you can dance with is crucial. So, if people have, like, if they want to talk to you or connect with you, is there a place on social media that they could do that you'd like to share?
they can go to my Facebook page.
Perfect. Yes, Paul is on Facebook. You'll see all his dance stuff. And the last question I like to ask all of my guests, Paul, is what is one word or quote or mantra that you try to live by every single day?
Improve.
What does that mean to you? Although I already probably know, but
Try to make today better than yesterday.
you know, so simple. Just do it, improve, make today better than yesterday. It's simple stuff. Again, I am just constantly impressed with you. We talk about on this show all the time. Ordinary just means everyday people around us that aren't maybe as well known or famous. And extraordinary are people who are doing great things for themselves and for others. And I am just so impressed. And I think those watching and listening are, of you really just living your life how you want, doing what makes you happy, because that is what life is about. And you're inspiring others to do the same. So thank you so much, Paul, for sharing your story. I'm so glad that I know you. Hopefully, when COVID is over, we can get together again in person. And I look forward to hearing more about all the great dance stuff that you do in the future.
Well, thank you ever so much for the opportunity and for having me on your show. And I owe everything to you.
Thank you so much.